ISIS, Boko Haram, Fulani militants, and other terrorists encourage violent acts against women as a strategic weapon of warfare and terror tactic. Women are targeted increasingly for violence that punishes their faith, destroys their dignity, robs their identity, and strikes fear in their communities. In a growing number of countries, Christian women face forms of discrimination and violence, including restrictions on freedom of dress and movement, employment and legal discrimination, violent assault, widowhood, forced abortions, or death of children, false accusations, sexual harassment, forced conversion and marriage, kidnapping, rape, human trafficking, and murder. If they survive and return, brutalized women and girls often face shame and exclusion from their families and communities. This, we feel, must end. Thank you so much. This has been quite an experience to put together these stories and to pick from the many stories that there are is a difficult task, to be certain. But these women represent what I have just described to you, the brutality of the double persecution of women in many countries, both for their faith and for their gender. It is an intersection of persecution that needs to be brought to light and given more opportunity to be heard. We have with us today one of the women who were featured in these banners, and I'm proud to introduce to you Arbana Xharra. Arbana Xharra is a journalist from Kosovo who authored a series of investigative reports on religious extremists and Turkey's Islamic agenda operating in the Balkans. She has won numerous awards for her reporting and was a 2015 recipient of the International Women of Courage Award from the U.S. State Department. She started journalism in Kosovo after the war. While reporting on Islamic radicalism, she started receiving death threats. In 2017, she was brutally attacked, and since early 2018, she moved with her 2 kids to the U.S. Arbana, I welcome you.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. So most of you remember the Kosovo during the 1999. We were in the war and we were saved by the United States. So I was 17 during the war. And immediately after the war, I moved from the hometown where I used to live to the capital city of Pristina, working as a journalist. For the first 10 years, I covered corruption. And I've been facing threats, politicians suing me, and all that, but everyone was focused on what is happening with this new state, building our new institution. No one was paying attention that something else is happening. Starting with Saudi Arabia, they came on the charity purposes, offering free English and computer courses to the children and asking in return to learn Quran. Kosovo, even though declared 90% Muslims, they are secular, most of them have the Western culture. They used to go coffee bars full of people drinking and not really practicing Islam. And I have realized in the meantime that something is changing. Every day more and more covered women, men with the beards and the short pants. And imams that they came from Saudi Arabia, that won scholarships, they became very, very influential. for one imam having 100,000 followers. And I decided to go and see what is happening. I went within their houses. On my first investigation that lasted 8 months and I did almost 100 interviews, I went to London. I find out that the money is coming also from the Islamic organization based in West. After the article was published, I was named Islamophobe, and I think that as a nation, this was invented from the Islamists. So whatever you say against them, I say you are an Islamophobe and stop talking. And I have realized that my country is in danger. Our country, and I cannot stop. And I've been receiving whatever I said, hundreds of threats on the social media, and I underestimated they are trying to scare me and stop me. I was often on TV. I built a huge network all over the Balkans, not only in Kosovo, also to some part of Serbia, Macedonia, Albania. I knew what is happening. Before having Islamic State in 2012, I alarmed everyone, international presence in Kosovo, in the region. I came often in the United States, at the State Department. I talk about what is happening. Then it switched from Saudi Arabia. We have Erdogan, the Turkish president now, who is trying to restore the Ottoman Empire all over the Balkans, also within a lot of EU countries. And I was digging what is happening, following his money. He started building mosques, he started investing a lot of money on spreading his political Islamic agenda. And I started having a reaction from the Turkish ambassador. And then I realized that yes, there is a topic that I should stick and not stop. A lot of threats mentioning my kids. I have a photo, which I cannot share here, of an ISIS, of a killed person, blood all over on the photo, and mentioning my kids that we are going to find you and we know how much you love your own children. I keep sending all these threats to the police. They've been doing nothing. I remember in 2015, I have seen these Islamists spreading materials to children downtown Pristina. And I made a statement on my Facebook where I have a lot of followers, and I said, police should remove that, not allow them using children, because nothing happens over the night. That's why now we have 300 men and 40 women that join Islamic State. It didn't happen over the night. They start brainwashing them since after the war. From Friday to Monday, I received over 200 threats. When I went to the police that was taking my statement, he was like, and why you are not writing about these Christians spreading materials also? But right now, we are having problems with Islamic State. They've been stopping kids giving materials to them. And then it became a real problem. They find out where I live. They came and they draw the Red Cross, which looks like the blood, but it was a painting. Police came and they said, don't worry, if they wanted to do something to you, they won't bother and come and just draw this cross. And a few weeks later, I went to Albania, which is 2-hour drive, and I've been talking at a primetime TV show on what Erdogan is doing all over the Balkans, how much money he's bringing, the mosque, and all the details about his Islamic agenda. And that night, at 1 o'clock in the morning, at the parking garage, I was brutally attacked. I was sent to the hospital, and then when I went back home, I've been reading comments on the social media. Everyone reacted, but there were a lot of comments that you shouldn't kill this Islamophobe. She's been paid from the Americans to fight Islamists. What I have learned are the tools they are using to recruit and brainwash kids. I'm going to mention just an interesting case of the men, because Kosovo is known as one of the most pro-American countries. They name kids by Madeleine Albright. We have streets where George W. Bush. In every house, we have the American flag. So this is what they are trying to change. A man which during the Milosevic regime escaped in Germany. He came back after the war to build a factory, and both of his kids start going to the mosque on their neighborhood, and they were saying to their dad that Americans are against Muslims. See what they are doing in Iraq. And he opened the computer, the YouTube, showing to them, see, Americans help us. We are majority Muslim. This is not true what an imam is saying to you. Both of his kids went to Syria. The small details, they were not poor. So this thing that they are recruiting the poor people, it's not true. It's about their ideology. And right now, we might say that ISIS is defeated. ISIS might be defeated, but their ideology, no. So the fighters, they are coming back on the Western countries. And the only country in Europe that realized that the mosques have been used and they are used from the Islamic agenda is Austria. In 2018, they closed a few mosques and they deported over 60 imams to find out what they are doing within the mosque. And not far from here, Maryland, there is an Islamic center being built. And I do read a lot of media, and there is not a single investigation on the money coming from the Erdogan. Erdogan is not just a Turkish president. He's trying to become a Muslim leader. Yeah. So I moved because of the safety of my kids, even though when I was attacked, the Freedom House reacted. I came for a month here and I went back, hoping that they will find out who attacked me. They didn't stop. They were mentioning my kids. And that's why I decided. I've been working for 17 years. I started very young working as a journalist. It was not easy to give up from my country. I still write, even though from here, but it's sad that Western countries and the United States is not aware of this ideology, is not aware on what is happening. They are very smart. They speak dozens of languages. I was in the taxi here, and the taxi driver asked me where I come from, and I said Kosovo. And I said, you're Muslim, majority Muslim. Said, during the Ramadan, he provided me with materials. So you see, everywhere they try to recruit. I will leave the floor now if you have any questions, because I have a lot of stories to share with you. But I'm glad that I'm here, and this is the right place to raise my voice, and I'm honored to be here. Thanks a lot.
Did you want to answer questions? Do you have any questions?
Hi, Maria Zach, Nations in Action. How are you? Thank you so much for coming. I was curious if there's like a list that you could devise that are the stages of how you saw things progress and a similarity in another country and another country, if there was a grid that exists.
Because I went to London to make this comparison, what is happening there. In Kosovo, 300 men joined Islamic State. Their parents are secular, their parents drink beers, while the recruiters or from the London, for example, or France, they are coming from the families that originally their background, they practice religion. So what happened in Kosovo, as I said, they start working with kids. They start investing a lot on PR, on social media. Since the beginning, they put a lot of money on Facebook. I remember when two minor girls born in 2015, I find out that they were trying to join Islamic State, and I went to interview both of her families. One of them, not rich, but good economic condition, and the other one very poor, which tells you exactly how they manipulate them through the social media. So these imams, I went to their houses. I might sound egoist, but if I took my son, he was 7, I went to Macedonia, one of the most radical imams, because you have to know how to approach to them. how to dress, they're going to ask you questions, they're going to record you without letting you know, and to see who they are, the way they talk to you. And I've been asking them, where do you get money to have this big, expensive house and car and the luxury life? Because it's all about the money. So this is how they start. When they went to London, the Pakistan organization, Rahma Mercy, based in London, they've been sending money in Kosovo to the orphans. They built illegal mosques. Within that mosque, with Islam, you cannot stay in the same environment, men and women. At that mosque, they were gathering until midnight, girls and boys, and then you can imagine after the war, the families, they didn't have commodity to think about what might happen to their kids. They were struggling existence. And then they find out something's wrong, and they organize a petition against this organization. Even though they went back to London, they were still sending money to the orphans. Now, these kids, after the war was finished during the 1999, 20 years. They started working with 7, 8, 10 years old. Now they are grown up. Now you have the best students at the Pristina University that Erdogan organized trips to the Turkey. So they are very smart. They influence others. So this is how they start recruiting, and now they have their own NGOs. I had a paper recently for Johns Hopkins on how Erdogan achieved to get under his hands the media. So if I write something, if they want to come against me, they use their own. They made a fake news that I said that Ramadan should be banned by law. The news was spread all over their media, on the Balkan media. So how, even though I made a statement that was a lie, this is how they try just to lose your credibility. And then whatever I say, they're going to say, she is against Muslims. What I said was that if I had 72 hours, I will know how to clean my country from extremist groups. And they beaten up my brother, who turns now 16. Now they made a propaganda saying that Arbana said that we should banish all the Muslims. You see, they know how to use the tools, and this is the message they send to other journalists. This is what is going to happen to you if you criticize. I know that there are a lot of good journalists that think like I do, but they are going to face what I've been facing. So whatever I say, even now that I write from here once a month, they use social media, use every kind of tools. And the media is the tool that they are using the most right now against the voices that criticize them.
Faith McDonald from the Institute on Religion and Democracy. Thank you so much, Arbana. You were talking about the media, and my question is about Western media, Western secular media. Do you get pushback from them? What is their reaction to the things that you say? Because we know they're squishy on Islam.
Yes, okay. When I had my article, it was one of the first investigations on 2012. I was surprised how many journalists, correspondents from the Europe came to interview me, and one of the side of being interested on what is happening. 2016, from New York Times came a journalist, and she did a cover story, but she was mostly focused on Saudi Arabia. Yes, it started with Saudis, but now it's about Turkey, it's about Erdogan. But even though I've been talking, I've been sharing, I find out a list of the credible journalists in the United States. I send the messages to them, links, and see what is happening. I can help you. I can go on field. I know how to approach to them. I know what question to ask them. I didn't get this, so they're not interested in covering this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Arbana, and thank you for your bravery and your willingness to cover these very critical topics. what the police told her was that if they wanted to, they're just trying to scare you. If they wanted to kill you, they would have. And you can see her banner here. It's the one called Beaten. And I invite you to read that afterwards. I'm glad to introduce to you Rema DuPont is a business leader and philanthropist who has spent over a decade overseeing organizations dedicated to countering violent extremism and building sustainable, peaceful futures for the world's most vulnerable populations. Her strategy to achieve a world with more freedom, fairness, and justice leverages a combination of successful business entrepreneurship, nonprofit foundation leadership, and active participation in advocacy programs of major international organizations. Rema is also Vice President of UN Women for Peace Association, focused on countering violence against women and children globally. Rema, I welcome you.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? So I was thinking about what to talk about today because I've had so many different experiences in this subject. But I think I'll start with just a factoid that most people don't realize, that 1 out of every 3 women globally experiences violence from an intimate partner. So that includes the United States. It is a global epidemic. And war zones are basically a run riot experience for women. So I'll just share a little bit about a couple of things. One is whether you're in Africa, I'm very good friends with several NGOs from Uganda where Mama Angelina, I don't know if you know about her, but she, Coney stole her daughter from a girls' school. Actually, he stole all the girls from the girls' school, and kept her for 7 years. And he had about 27,000 girls captive. And I met Mama Angelina. She came to my house, and her daughter one day saw an angel that told her, walk out of the camp. They're not even going to notice you're walking out. And she walked out and was free with her 2 small children. She was 12 when she was kidnapped. She was 19 when she left. And Mama Angelina created a sort of a movement in Uganda, a prayer for Coney and for all of the girls that were kidnapped. And it was so prevalent that she ended up, Coney begged her to stop. And he said he would return her daughter, and by then it was like a year later when she said, no, you have to return all of your children because they all belong to our country and they belong to, because she started a prayer movement with all parents, whether they were Christian or not. So that's one. And then, go to the Congo, where I have a dear friend who has a nonprofit called African New Day, where they started with rescuing women in the Congo. Over 90% of women under 18 experience rape or genital mutilation or both, because most of the culture are children of rape. And this wonderful couple started a nonprofit to help the women, and then realized they need to focus on the men. And then they realized they need to focus on the men. And they started a movement called Sons of Congo, and it was a Christian couple, which basically trains men to be leaders. About 4 years ago, they now have over 30,000 men who have joined this movement to stop violence against women, to honor women, to become better leaders, to work on tribal issues. So there are good things happening. I think that would be a great one for anywhere, really. And then I'll talk about a little bit about going to Iraq. I got a call regarding doing violent extremism programs in Iraq, countering violent extremism, I should say. And I went there in 2014 to look at what ISIS was doing, and ended up meeting this incredible professor, Yazidi professor, who started sending cell phones into the ISIS camps to rescue the women that were kidnapped. And by 2015, ended up taking the issue to the UN National Security Council to at least nominate the genocide against Christian and Yazidi women and children, or to not try to have them nominated as genocide. And some of the horrific things I saw, just to give you an example, or heard about, I would go there and it would take me like 3 months to recover. Every single time. So if you can imagine what those women went through. I'll tell you one terrible story. I met this one woman who, she was holding her baby. They killed her husband in front of her. They killed her baby, then they cooked her baby and forced her to eat the baby. And then they raped her and kidnapped her and took her to their camps. So I'm just, the kind of horrific stuff that you see from these radical groups is beyond human imagination. So, I don't know if there's so I'm on a board at UN Women for Peace that we've actually had events several times a year to bring to light some of these subjects and to try and get a lot of the ambassadors' wives or women ambassadors or even some of the men ambassadors to sort of champion some causes in certain countries and at least bring awareness to these issues so that change can happen.
So Save the Persecuted Christians works hard to advocate for persecuted Christians, and our hearts go out to the women and children who are so brutally harmed in so many countries. And one of those that we had the opportunity to advocate for was Leah Sharibu from Nigeria. Nigeria has a large population of widowed women because of the violence of Boko Haram, and many, many orphans because of the violence of both Boko Haram and Fulani militants. And today we have with us the Honorable Terwase Orbunde, who is the Chief of Staff for the Benue State Governor Salman Porto. And I thank you for being here today, Honorable Orbunde. If you would like to speak on the situation for women in Nigeria today, I welcome you.
Thank you, Dede. Many of you in this hall are familiar with the Bible story of a woman who was caught in adultery. How many of us are familiar with it? Did any one of you know what happened to the man? Adultery means two people, isn't it? But we know about the woman who was caught in adultery, not the man. I just want to underscore the fact that from time, women have been on the receiving end. Part of it is cultural, part of it is religious. But in most societies, women are more than 50% of that society. When you put together the women and the children, then you are talking about over 60% of the population. It means that at any point in time, these two are endangered, that society is endangered. And unfortunately, that's the situation that's happening around the world, in war-torn areas, it's happening around the world. wherever there are disasters. In Nigeria, I'm happy to have the misfortune of having to chair a committee that did the mass burial of attacks by foreign invasion, 1st of January 2018. We had to bury 73 souls in the mass burial. Most of those people, victims, children and women, and the aged. You are familiar with the story of the Chibok girls, over 200 of them picked up by Islamic fundamentalists. Boko Haram, meaning Western education is taboo. That's the meaning of Boko Haram. Western education is taboo. Something that should be fought and destroyed. And I'm sure you also are familiar with the Dapchi girls, where Leah Sharibu was one of those that they refused to release because of her faith. The combination of factors, like I said, cultural, religious, have combined to put women at the receiving end. Now, sadly, because of the fact that they are victims, both women and children, it creates an unfortunate situation. I said earlier in one of my presentations, we have 8 IDP camps in my state, over 180,000 people in the IDP camps. Children and women are more than 80%. We did not plan for it. We woke up to be face to face with this reality. We have no budget for it. So it means that all the women and the children have had to live very difficult and challenging lives. Now, I'm happy to be in a meeting where the issue of women is in the front burner, particularly because I'm a beneficiary of a very kind mother, good sisters, a generous wife who has been able to tolerate me. I'm a very extreme person, I hold very extreme views, but she has been able to accommodate me. And with 4 children, 2 of them girls, they've made my life a song. Meaning that at any point in time, society looks at women and children kindly. Society is doing good to themselves. It's not a favor. Anytime society is looking kindly on women and children, that society is doing good to itself. The leader of Boko Haram is called Shakao. Shakao has a mother. He has parents. I am very sure that because we are all products of women, you either have a mother, or if you're an adult like I am, a wife, or if you're lucky, a sister. You know, we are surrounded by them, and I like to say that this advocacy is very, very, very significant to me. It's the first time I'm in a meeting where kidnapped, butchered, beaten, enslaved, and all this I'm seeing. I've never arranged these thoughts in my head like this, which means that when I go back home, I'll be looking at it in a more organized manner. So I want to thank Save the Persecuted Christians for this initiative. We want to come right here, and when I go home, I'll definitely be advocating in a better way. We've created schools at the IDP camps, trying to make their lives better, but there can be nothing like home. Living outside the environment has been quite trying. So I want to conclude this brief presentation by saying this advocacy is very welcome Please keep it up. And I conclude by saying I am a convert to it. I go home to make sure that I organize this thing like this so that society will be better for it. Thank you very much.
I'm very honored by the words of the Honorable Orbunde. Thank you so much, sir, for your thoughts. We have one more presenter, and after that we are going to show the new documentary in the cauldron of conflict, women and children, the pathway of the Islamist. And it was created by one of our coalition partners, Mission Africa International, Dr. Shayo Ajiboye. So I invite you to stay after the final presenter here, who I am happy to introduce as my boss, Frank Gaffney, President of Save the Persecuted Christians. Save the Persecuted Christians is his brainchild, and he has given it quite a bit of love over the last year and a half, and is the most amazing coalition builder I know. I'm very happy to serve with him, honored and humbled by it. Frank Gaffney.
Dede, being characteristically generous, thank you. Let me just say that there are many people in this coalition who have pulled together. A significant number of them are in this room, and I'm very grateful to all of you for doing so. This is obviously a huge problem that we're here to address today. Whether it is a problem writ large of persecution of people of faith, specifically Christians, who are being persecuted in numbers that are simply unimaginable around the world today. By some estimates, it's 300 million. Some 245 million of whom are being severely persecuted. And the worst of it is what we're seeing here, in terms of what's being done specifically to and against women and their children. I want to say a special word of thanks to Dede for essentially doing single-handedly this production. You have no idea. It's an extraordinary labor of love, which she approaches everything involved with this project as I think a mission. And it's an inspiration to me, and I think to all of us who have the privilege of working with her to see that done. I want to just add a little bit of a backstory, if I could, to what the Congressman was saying about Laugesen Xharra, because as some of you know, we sponsored her mother, Rebecca Xharra, here as part of what I call Nigeria crisis delegation a few weeks ago. And I don't know if you've seen the video of her appearance at the Heritage Foundation, for example. If you haven't, I really commend it to you. I've been in this town a long time. Been involved in a lot of programs, run a few, organized a lot, but I've never experienced one quite as powerful as this one. And that was partly because of Laugesen Xharra's story. And you heard the essence of it a moment ago. Because she would not renounce her faith, she remains a slave for life, in the words of Rema. The other girls, whether Muslim were happy to convert and they're on their way home. The impact of Rebecca and her translator, Dr. Gloria, who is magnificent as well, and other women from Nigeria who participated in this program, and a few men too, was palpable as we saw them interacting with senior level government officials in both the executive branch of the United States government and the legislative branch. As I mentioned, heritage in other settings, with the media and elsewhere. The power of the stories was incalculably impressive, I think, to everyone with whom they met. And our prayer, of course, is that that will translate into action. In the case of Arbana Xharra, we did see the Vice President of the United States, on the recommendation of his Chief of Staff, with whom she met, moved, as I mentioned earlier in the day, to call upon the Vice President of Nigeria to come to the United States and meet with him to talk about what is happening there now. And it was very heartening that that level of attention is being applied to this story of Nigeria. We discussed it earlier. It's crisis and becoming more so. Not just for women, but most especially for women. So, Congressman, we're delighted to have a convert going home to take this fight forward. But let me just say that, unfortunately, the kidnapping and enslavement and all that goes with that, the gang raping and terrifying traumas of various other kinds, isn't the only thing that women and girls in many of the nations in which this persecution is taking place are subjected to. A mention was made of it earlier, I think, by Rema. One of the other horrors is female genital mutilation. Again, there are hundreds of millions of women around the world who are being subjected to this most unbelievably cruel, disfiguring and scarring, both physically, of course, and psychologically, scarring practice. It's not well known, but it's estimated that there are several 100,000 of them in this country as well. Some of whom have already been mutilated, some of whom will. Did you know? In 15 states of the United States, it is perfectly legal to do that to women and girls, children, mostly. 15 states have yet to adopt statutes prohibiting that practice in our country. And one of those states, until recently, was the state of Michigan. And in the state of Michigan, a ring that was involved in mutilating girls as part of something called the Dawugi Bora sect was ratted out, evidently by a member of the sect. And the FBI observed what was going on and busted up the ring, and it became a federal prosecution. Only the judge, who has made pretty clear from the beginning, was not interested in trying this case, ruled that the federal statute prohibiting FGM across this country was unconstitutional. Not because he favors mutilation, mind you, but on a technicality. But that has created this situation in which it is now legal in those 15 states that have not yet voted. We've been working with state legislatures to fix that, and we hope to have more help. But let me just say, whether it's this issue, whether it's this problem that we're seeing around the world, whether it's another, which is related to all of these, trafficking of women and girls, often for sexual slavery and the like. These are issues that ought to move every one of us to action. And I want to just take this occasion to say I appreciate tremendously the leadership of President Trump and his family on so many issues. I think they've made a huge contribution to this country in the face of unbelievable opposition. Having said that, I know that for both the First Lady, Melania Trump, and the First Daughter, as we call it, Ivanka Trump, the condition of women is a personal priority. To say, I hope on behalf of all of us, specifically Save the Persecuted Christians, that the First Lady, Ivanka Trump, will take aboard this presentation, take aboard and take to heart this cause, because it is arguably among the most egregious examples of the plight of women in the world today, and is mostly unmentioned, certainly in official circles. So we need their help. Last, let me just say, as we discussed in the previous segment, I think that one of the things each of us can do to help these women and girls is to join forces in a movement across this country to hold the people responsible and accountable for what they're doing. I've heard some personal stories of the UN and the world. If everyone pulls together to make it clear that there are costs to engaging in this kind of behavior, to insist that our government impose those costs, and that we hold as well the enablers of the persecutors, the people who apologize for them, the people who lobby on their behalf. This little button, which I offer to all of you outside, is addressing specifically one law firm in America that is involved in helping defend people who persecute Christians and others. Communist China, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Cameroon, and the Palestinian Authority. It's called Squire Patton Boggs. It's not the only one that does this sort of thing. It just happens to do it particularly well. They must be held accountable as well, as should other firms that do this sort of thing. And again, this is a place where you can help. So please, take aboard this information. Be a convert to it as well. And help enlist the people who represent you in government, the people who report on the affairs of our world, and the people in pastoral roles and others that can influence large numbers of Americans to become engaged in saving persecuted Christians and other faith communities, and most especially the women and children that are important and highly targeted parts of these communities. With that, again, thank you, Dede, and thank you to all of you for being here.